This is TWiT. This is a Chinese company, right? They're owned by, are they privately owned? Who owns them? Do we know?
I believe they are privately owned. Tencent and NetEase are two gigantic gaming companies from China that have been investing. You know, they got their start, I believe, by partnering with Western companies coming in China, because of course a Western company needs a Chinese partner to come into the country. NetEase was working very closely with Blizzard on many games. I believe Tencent is working with them on others. And both of them have started investing heavily in Western studios, as well as, you know, many other things, developing things internally. And now they have, it seems like for the past year, every week we heard about an investment, a massive investment from Tencent or NetEase in the gaming space in America or Europe. It was, you know, millions and millions of dollars flowing in every week. And so obviously it doesn't mean that they own the speech of all of those companies they have invested in. But given what's been happening in the past few days and weeks, I think that the fact brings a pause to us.
Here's why it's come up. So Tencent, by the way, owns China's first online-only bank. It's much more than gaming now. It's hundreds of industries.
Yes.
They're the ones who signed the $700 million deal with the NBA to stream American basketball games in China. Those games, by the way, blocked immediately after Houston Rockets general manager tweeted in support of Hong Kong. They do cars. They do everything. They are in the top 10 of the world's most valuable companies. Here's why I bring this up. This story just recently came out. Good research from a website called reclaimthenet.org. If you're using an iPhone, Safari is sending the addresses, the IP addresses of sites you visit to Tencent. They send it to Google Safe Browsing. Okay, that makes sense. They're trying to figure out if it's malicious. But Tencent has something called Safe Browsing. If you look at your privacy settings in Safari, it says before visiting a website, Safari may send information calculated from the website address to Google Safe Browsing and Tencent Safe Browsing to check if the website is fraudulent. These safe browsing providers may also log your IP address. We talk a lot about protecting yourself from your ISP, protecting yourself from bad guys on the Wi-Fi. Every site you visit is being sent to China by Apple. Now, I'm going to show you how you can turn that off. It's on by default. In an iPhone, you go to Safari, Settings, and you'll see under Privacy and Security, probably the most insecure setting on your iPhone, the fraudulent website warning. That's not secure. That's not protecting you. That's sending every site you visit to China. So I think of this as a canary. I think now that we know this, I want to see what happens. I want to see if Apple turns that feature off, because that does not enhance your security in any way.
Yeah, I think it's it's
shocking.
Google definitely has a role that they play as far as infrastructure. As a developer, with the last game I shipped, when we were checking to see if you had iCloud access, Google actually provided an IP that we could ping all day long on every single device that they gave to us, and we could do it to see if there was an internet connection by trying to ping Google.
And I knew that we were sending. That Google had safe browsing. I knew that my browser was sending. I think that was a good thing. I left that turned on. But as of iOS 12, all of a sudden, it's sending it to China.
Right.
I think that's unconscionable.
If I could tell very...
Well, that's the question. So safe browsing, the idea is you would run every site you're going to visit to make sure doesn't have malware on it. That was the idea. Google in its crawl will detect malware. That's why you get that pop-up, right? And to detect if it's a fraudulent site. So it's not clear what Apple's doing except for that one privacy statement that they may send information calculated from the website address, that's the IP address, to Google Safe Browsing and Tencent Safe Browsing to check if the website is fraudulent. It's not going to work unless they send every single site there.
Yep. What I was going to say, Leo, is I've heard stories from both big and small tech companies about what the outcome is of Tencent putting an investment in the studio. And in some cases, it's been very hands-off, not a big deal. In others, it's been incredibly heavy-handed. There's one studio where they came in and they wanted to do cultural checks on everything they were doing, and members of the team are staying up until 3 a.m. To have meetings with Tencent in China. And there's, the language barrier and trying to get okays on art style and all these different things. And that's a tendency I've seen with both very large institutions and smaller ones. So I think I could see, whereas, Apple working with Google on that, Google plays more of an infrastructure role. It's hard for me to see a valid reason to send that information to Tencent. So I saw that story, and it really gives me pause, because it's hard to imagine what good that would be used for.
I don't see any context that could be considered safer than not doing that. So, and it's surprising to me that Apple made this change in iOS 12. And Matthew Green, cryptographer, says, "What? Wait, Apple's sending URLs to Tencent? I mean, this is really fairly shocking."
We don't know a lot about this, but they don't send identifying information along with that IP,
we don't know.
I'm guessing.
Right? We don't know. Apple doesn't say. Matthew says, "I know Google uses some weak anonymity solution to provide some degree of privacy. How about Tencent? No one knows. No one knows. And Apple has not said. And why would Apple suddenly put this in and not tell us?" By the way, Green, who is a well-respected cryptographer at Johns Hopkins, says safe browsing, quote, "was never safe. It was a calculated risk-reward trade-off based on certain assumptions about the behavior of Google. Replacing Google with Tencent requires a whole new set of calculations. Has Apple done them?" It's interesting because when they announce a new privacy feature, he points out they do it on stage with hundreds of reporters applauding. But when you want to send all your browsing to China, they do that without telling anybody. It's very upsetting. Do you think they'll do something about this now that this has come out?
Well, the mood around China now is such that I think everyone who gets called out on anything will have to at least appear to be doing something.
Appear, yeah. So you might want to look in your browser, and if it's sending your IP addresses to China, you might want to turn that off. At best, it's a privacy violation. At worst, it's not going to make you safer. Let's put it that way.